Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I just wanted to say thank you guys and welcome back to another episode of Cooking with Carrington, where our aim is to always educate and elevate. And along with that, when you come and visit with us, you're always going to have a party in your mouth. Today, especially, is going to be a different sort of treat. So we have our shrimp and grits with a twist. So classic shrimp and grits that everybody knows about, or is getting very familiar with when you go to restaurants around the country. A lot of places use the traditional Southern, which we're going to do this today, the traditional Southern style grits. If you want to say Cajun style that way, or sometimes if you're coming from the Southeast, in the Mid-Atlantic or Southeast, they'll use maybe a little bit of tomato based on it. And then there's other places that just use an oil base. We're actually going to do a real quick Cajun style roux based and make a real quick roux. And you'll see with the items so that we can actually have a little thickness to go over our grits. Now, a lot of people say, well, what are grits? What is a grit? A lot of people don't know a grit is actually from the corn. So when you talk about grits, grits are from a specific corn called the dent. Excuse me, guys, called the dent is the type of corn it is. And that what they do is they take that corn and they create the hominy. They take the hominy out of it, which is the white part of it. So here's the thing. Some people say, well, what's polenta? So polenta is also made with corn. It's a different type of corn, and it's yellow. It's a yellow corn that they use, and they use the whole kernel itself and they dry it out. And that is from Italy. Believe it or not, that is a particular strain of corn that they have comes from Italy. So with the grit being said, the grits are they healthy for you? Some people say no because corn doesn't have a lot of nutritional value. Some people say yes, it is healthy for you. So what the grit has is because of the part of the corn that it uses, it has some health benefits for you. It's high in fiber, and also is very good. It is a good form of carbohydrate. So again, it is a form of carbohydrate. It is a little bit processed most of the time, depending on what you purchase. I asked everybody if they could to get some stone ground grits, which is a way of milling the grits themselves. They're milled through a stone process of grinding them. Uh, it was very difficult to get those for some reason. They did not have them in a lot of supermarkets, and that could be because of the climate that we're in right now with supply chain demands and the stresses that are on those right now, and as far as picking and things like that, possibly. So I went with the next best option, which is just a basic quick grit, not the 1 minute grit. So the longer it takes to cook, the less processed the grit is itself. And so we don't want to have something that's so overly processed that it actually loses all of its nutritional value. Okay, so grits themselves, again, I love grits. I love grits. And there's a couple things that happen with grits. Some people, depending where you're from, how you're raised, and what you're used to, some people think of grits as a sweet porridge. And some people put sugar in it. Other people put just butter in it. Some people cook it with milk. Some people cook them with water. There are a lot of different ways, and we're going to do a couple different things. We're making two different recipes today. One is going to be your traditional one. The second one, we call it, has a little twist to it. And so we're going to just incorporate a little bit of our Caribbean, Jamaican brothers and sisters because they do porridge in the West Indies. They don't necessarily use grits for their porridge, but we're going to make a grit cake today, and we're going to actually do a roasted jerk shrimp to go over that grit cake also. And we're going to make just a little, to twist it a little bit more, we're going to make a quick little apricot and jalapeno glaze or syrup, if you want to call it, to go as a garnish with that dish. So just to let you guys know, get yourself strapped in, get ready. You have your ingredients, you have your recipe cards. Get ready. Let's rock and roll. It's going to be a quick run. I want you all to know here you are. Here I am. We're all together once again. We're cooking with Carrington. Let's go. First thing we're going to do, So, like I've been talking to you guys about buying spices and seasonings for a while. When you go to the store and you see, an Cajun seasoning, right? So you go and you pick up that Cajun seasoning. And when you pick that Cajun seasoning up, or any other seasoning, Cajun, jerk seasoning, any seasoning you see, 9 times out of 10, the first ingredient is going to be salt in that particular seasoning. Salt is not necessarily good for us. It is good as an enhancer, but it should not be our major ingredient. So what I decided to do is I mix a mix and make a lot of my own seasoning blends. And so what I decided to do was make a Cajun seasoning blend and a jerk seasoning blend. So for these applications that we're going to do today. So let's get started with that right away, and we'll get those set up and set to the side. Okay. So the first question.
Turn our ovens on?
Please turn your oven on. You can get it turned on to 350 degrees. We're going to need that for the grit cake and the roasted shrimp. All right, great question. Great question. All right. Also, if you guys noticed in the intro, you'll see something called our Big Daddy Sneak Up Sauce. And what we like to do is that is a sauce that we make, and it is for sale. That sauce can be used on anything. It's predominantly used for wings. You fry your wings, just toss them in the sauce. It's an amazing. We call it sweet with a little bit of heat. And also, we have people that use it on everything from spaghetti to cold pineapples. Again, that's Big Daddy Sneak Up Sauce, and it is available at dtcarrington61@gmail.com. Reach out to us, and there'll be more information in the chat to let you know. Reach out to us again, and we'll get that to you. Again, dtcarrington61@gmail, and that's the Big Daddy Sneak Up Sauce. What you're looking at right there is the original one. We do have a couple others. We have our Asian triple X, which has a little bit of an Asian spice to it. We also have our barbecue. It's the big and bold barbecue. And then we also have our Henny barbecue sauce, which has a little bit of a little kick and a twist to that. And we're working on something called our purple smoke. And so again, just reach out to me at dtcarrington61@gmail.com. All right, let's get moving. So here's the thing. What we're making right now is really, really, really one of those dishes. Like I always tell you guys, cooking is a roadmap. Baking is a science. When we're baking, we want to make sure that we're following the directions, the amounts, and everything else, because it's a science. And if you alter one thing, one item by weights, measure, or anything else, it could change the outcome of the entire dish that you're making. When you're cooking, everything is subjective to your taste. So with that being said, I know I gave you suggested portions, but I'm not going to use any of those. All right. Only thing I'm going to use those for is actually when we go to cook the grits. And grits cook at a 4-to-1 ratio, just to let you guys know. So first thing we're going to do, let's go ahead and make our jerk seasoning. All right. So in jerk, one of the first seasonings that you want to have is called allspice. That is the spice that really kicks it over. And so we're going to add a little bit of allspice, and that allspice can become overpowering. If you're not used to it, when you taste it, it may taste a little bit like cinnamon, it may taste a little bit like nutmeg, but it is actually a plant itself. Okay, so we're going to add a little bit of allspice in to our little mixing bowl, into our little cute little cups that we have here. All right, from the allspice. The next major ingredient that you want to use in making jerk seasoning is thyme. And so we're going to mix our thyme in and go from there. And once we add our thyme, again, everything is subjective to your flavor profile. And if you notice, most of my seasonings will come either in a plastic bag or a large container, and I buy them in bulk. And I either put them in a larger container to hold or keep them in the plastic bag they come in. So we're going to add a little bit of thyme to the allspice. Notice I said a little bit and then a little bit more. And we're going to add a little bit of oregano. And sometimes you'll find oregano in jerk, sometimes you won't. It's not one of the major seasonings on the island, but I like it. It does add a specific flavor profile, but we're only going to add a little bit of the oregano. Oregano is going to be more prominent in our excuse me, in our Cajun seasoning. Okay. All right. Then we're going to add a little bit of granulated garlic. All right. Again, I tend to like garlic, but it's subjective to your flavor profile. Okay, guys? Whatever you like, that's what you're going to use. Okay. Once we add our garlic, we're going to add a little bit of black pepper. All right. Reach in here, just a little bit of black pepper. You don't need a lot of black pepper. All right. We get that mixed in. And we're just going to add a dab of cayenne pepper. Just a dab. Jerk does not mean hot. You guys got that? Cajun does not mean hot. Jerk does not mean hot. Jerk literally means the way things were cooked on the open grills that they had in Jamaica to cook outside. That is what jerk is. It's also a blend of all the flavors from the different nationalities that make up Jamaica. All right, which you'll see in a minute here. All right, and so just to say that because we did not put a ton of cayenne pepper in there. So now we're going to add just a little bit of salt. Again, salt is always an enhancer. It should never be the takeover flavor. Oh, there we go. Now, if everybody has theirs, are we caught up? Everybody make their seasonings so far? You smell that. That smells just so amazing. Everybody's good? Is everybody caught up on that? Can you see those? Can we see the seasoning? All right.
Yes, chef.
Thank you. So now what I'm going to do, I have my shrimp here. This is I use actually when I went to the store, they had a 1625 shrimp. It used to be 2125s or 1620s. And so what I did is I bought the 1625 and I peeled them myself, deveined them, or you could have had them peeled and deveined. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of the seasoning to it. Actually, a good amount. I want you guys to see how I'm putting it on. Can you see it?
Yes, chef. Question.
Question.
For those folks who have not attended an earlier Cooking with Carrington show where you talked about what those numbers mean, what does 1625 mean?
Great question. What does 1625 mean? So whenever you see shrimp, scallops, mostly in your seafood, when you see the numbers, and always ask when you go to the counters, they'll say, well, this is jumbo shrimp. Ask them what are the numbers. So when you see 16 to 25, 21, 25, 26, 30, 30 to 40, that is telling you that the average number of shrimp or that item or scallops, that will be the average number you'll get per pound. That's what it's telling you. So if you see 21, 25, that means you probably average somewhere between 22 and 23 shrimp per pound. Okay, great question. Great question. So now we're going to add a little bit of OJ. I like to add OJ. I like the acid kick from OJ into onto my shrimp. And I just told you about the mix of cultures in Jamaica. And so when a lot of people, they wonder where that darkness comes from in the jerk, it actually comes from soy sauce, all right? Or teriyaki sauce. Not teriyaki, when you say it's teriyaki sauce, not teriyaki glaze, okay? There's a difference. Glaze is made, it has sugar in it, and it's thick in there. The teriyaki sauce is just the brewed out soy that they bring down, and this is what we do. Add a little bit to the shrimp. All right. And we're going to mix that around. And the reason I want to do that first, because I want to get some of that flavor into the shrimp. And so when we roast these shrimp off, that flavor is going to be all throughout the shrimp. Can we see what we have in there, guys? Is anybody making it? If you're making it, tell me what it smells like. So all I want to know, tell me, what does that smell like? Because that aroma is really...
Smells like delicious, chef.
There you go. Oh, yeah. Now we're gonna set that to the side. And we're just gonna let those sit there, okay? And let that flavor marinate. So now you say, well, you have some of that seasoning left, right? So what we're gonna do is you're gonna take this seasoning and you can get yourself a little baggie or a little container and you pour that seasoning in it and you store it. This seasoning will last you a couple years. I know they say, oh, you're supposed to throw them away after a year or so. Trust me, it'll last you a couple years. Just put it away into a baggie or a container and label it so you'll know what it is when you come back to it.
Question, Chef,
Question.
how long should you marinate shrimp? How long is too long?
So it depends on what you're marinating them in. And that's a great question. Question is, how long should you marinate shrimp? So really, like I said, it depends on what you're marinating the shrimp in. And the reason I said that is because the more acid, the flesh of the shrimp is delicate. So the more if the marinade has a lot of acid into it, that acid is going to start eating away at the flesh of the shrimp, and you'll end up with, if it's over marinated, you'll end up with a mealy sort of texture when you go to, after you cook it and go to taste it. All right. So what you want to do is know your shrimp, know your marinade. If you have a lot of acid in it, limit less than 2 hours. If it doesn't have a lot of acid, you can go anywhere up to about 4 hours. It's not like chicken. It doesn't have that the texture like chicken or a hearty meat, beef, pork, or something like that. Whereas with your porks and your beef, you marinate those. You can marinate those overnight. Chicken anywhere from 6 to 12 hours. But when it comes to shrimp and fish too, fish also because of the texture for most fish, I should say, the textures are really very, very light. So you got to be careful the amount of acid that you apply to it. All right. So next thing, question. Okay.
Fresh and shrimp, how do you pick the best shrimp?
How do you pick the best shrimp? That's a great question. Question is fresh. I think you're saying fresh versus frozen. So with that, when the shrimp is frozen, it's caught, and if it says IQF on it, means individually quick frozen. All right, so that means they catch the fish and they flash freeze them right away. Okay, so it's not so much if it's better fresh or frozen. What it is how you thaw it out. That's what the difference.
Oh,
So the difference comes in because if you thaw it out under running water, and depending on where you live at, if you live in the northeast or north Midwest during the winter, the water is cold enough that it can actually thaw it out and it won't damage the flesh itself. Living in the south, when you start running water, our waters, they run somewhere around 60 degrees or 70, even higher sometimes. That when you run it on that, that's actually starting to cook the fish and the flesh, that's not the best. You don't get the best product out of it. The best way to thaw out frozen shrimp or fish is what we call slacking out. And that's when you take your product and you set it in your refrigerator for a few days until it thaws out. That way,
wow.
when it comes out and it's thawed out, at that point you will notice that is almost as if you were to buy it fresh out of the case in the supermarket. Again,
Mhm.
again, subjective, frozen or fresh. The difference is how you handle it. Hope that answered the question.
Yes.
Okay, so here we go. Moving on, we're gonna do our Cajun seasoning. The Cajun seasoning, you can use for so much everything. I mean, you can actually use the jerk seasoning for everything too. But your Cajun seasoning, it can be amazing because you can use that on everything from chicken, fish, shrimp, pork, beef, even just on vegetables. For those of you that like vegetables, your little steamed vegetables with a sprinkle of Cajun seasoning on it and a little bit of olive oil. Man, you got a nice little treat there. So first thing we're going to add, again, you notice I'm using very, very particular seasoning measurements for all of my food here, right? So first thing that we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a little bit of cayenne pepper. And the reason I want to add this first is I want you guys to see Cajun does not mean spicy. And I want you to see that the amount of cayenne that we add compared to the other item, the other ingredients that are in there. Okay? So, cayenne pepper, granulated garlic. I want you guys to see what I'm putting in. Granulated garlic, black pepper, oregano. So the secret to Cajun is um, you have something called the Holy Trinity, which starts Cajun in cooking. We're going to use that in a minute. That is your bell pepper, your celery, and your onion. But the flavor profile comes out once you add oregano to it. That's the secret to Cajun. So you need the Holy Trinity. You hear people talk about the Holy Trinity all the time, the Holy Trinity. Yes, you need it. But to get that Cajun flavor, you want to make sure you have some oregano in there. All right? So now we're going to add a little bit of garlic. And then we're going to add a little bit of salt. Again, subjective. Everything's subjective. We do not need a ton of salt. All right? Putting the rest of it back. And what I like to add into my Cajun is smoked paprika. All right. And when we say smoked paprika, and you can smoke paprika yourself. You can smoke any seasoning you like. And it actually, all it takes is just heating up a pan to what they call almost a smoking point, adding your seasoning into it, and then moving it around so that it lightly starts to toast. And then you just turn your fire off and let it sit. And that's how you get the toasted flavor. But you can actually buy very good toast paprika right now. All right, so we're going to mix this all up here. And now you have your seasoning blends. Now these are good forever. You can, again, anytime you need to make something, you want to use something Cajun, this blend will work for anything Cajun. The recipe calls for Cajun. Can we see that?
Yes, chef.
All right. So that is our Cajun seasoning. So I'm going to set the Cajun seasoning over to the side where we're going to use it in a minute. And then I'm going to grab my pot here. I'm going to add some water into it. We're going to start the part of the twist. All right, guys? And the twist being our apricot and jalapeno. I call it a glaze. Normally I'll put it into a bottle or jar and let it go. So what I'm doing, I'm putting a whole jalapeno in, right? Into the pot. I'm going to turn it on to a nice high temp just to get it to come to a boil. And then we're just going to let it simmer down. And I'm using the apricot preserve. I particularly like apricot. You could use peach preserve. You could use strawberry preserve. I may not use strawberry preserve for this particular dish, but I'll tell you, the strawberry preserve actually works really good if you're going to do like chicken and waffles. Chicken and waffles with a strawberry jalapeno glaze is really, really good. All right.
Question, chef.
Question.
How much apricot preserves are you putting in there?
Again, we're talking very subjective. So I'm going to add it's probably about a little more than 2 cups of water in there. And I'm going to add a little more than a half a jar I think it's a 12-ounce jar of apricot preserves. And what we're going to do is we're going to let this come to a boil and it's going to cook down. All right. And we're just going to let it cook. The flavors are going to flow. And we're going to go from there. All right. Don't be afraid. Again, cooking, subjective. Baking, science. All right. All right. So we're going to let this go. And we're going to go ahead and start our water for our grits. So the reason I didn't start the grits ahead of time, because I want you to see, it's not going to take a long time because we don't have the stone ground grits. So Not gonna take a long time. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add the grits into this pot here. There's gonna be 2 cups of grits. We're gonna add roughly 8 cups of water, and it might be a little bit less. Grits tend to expand quite a bit. And actually, I'm gonna take a little bit of these grits out for this particular pot. And so don't be afraid. I'm sorry, I'm not adding water. I'm adding half and half. Nobody stop me. Stop me when I'm getting crazy, guys.
Stop, chef.
Stop. We're adding half and half. Thank you. I'm glad somebody stopped me. All right. So we're going to add our half and half. All right. Any questions, guys, so far?
No question, chef.
Is everybody working? Everybody getting theirs going? We're going to add our half and half. Now here's a little secret, and I'm going to have to add just a little bit of water to that, which is okay, because the half and half is already there. It's going to get our creaminess going. We turn our fire on. Again, this is another thing, and you gotta be careful because your grits will come over the pot. So you just want to watch them. We're gonna add just a little more liquid, just about another little half a cup to pick up some of that half and half that's in there. Make sure we get it all in. So now this is not on your recipe, guys. So pay close attention, close attention, close attention. It is on the second part of the recipe, but I actually use it in the initial part also because it just has such a nice little change. It gives a nice little flavor profile to our grits. Okay, I'm gonna add just a little bit of chicken base into here, just a little. And stir it around. You don't need a lot, and that is less than a tablespoon. Okay. Again, what's the secret to what we're doing right now? To cooking, what's the secret? Subjective. Everything is subjective. All right. And I'm going to add a tiny bit, a tiny. When I say tiny, I'm going to show you how tiny it is. A tiny bit. Can you see that? 1/8 of a teaspoon. I'm actually going to add about half of that of cayenne pepper. Okay? We're just going to add that right in. All right. Is it going to be hot and spicy? No. Because of the half and half, it's going to have a richness to it. We're going to stir it around a little.
Question, chef.
Answer.
What's the temperature of the flame on under the grit?
Right now, that flame is going to be up high because we're going to bring it to a boil. Once it goes to a boil, then we're going to bring it down to a simmer. All right. Same with the apricot sauce. All right. Any questions so far?
No question, chef.
All right. So we're going to keep our eye on your pots so we don't get any boil overs. All right. On the grits, we may have to add a little more liquid to it, and that's okay. Again, it is a quick grit, so it's supposed to be done in 5 minutes or so. I don't normally do that. I'm going to add a little bit of butter to it also. I like the richness. I like getting my butter and my flavors in here. I'm going to add a little. I'm not going to add any salt because I use chicken base. And bases, your chicken base, shrimp base, which we're going to use in a couple minutes, they tend to have salt in them. So it's better. You can always add salt for your seasoning at the end also. So instead of, because once it's in, you can't take it out. But you can always add more. Okay, guys? All right. So looks like we're going pretty good now so far. Is everybody caught up?
Question, chef.
Question.
Why are grits so popular in the South?
Grits are great question. Why are grits popular in the South? So, guys, remember who we are from the South. Remember we had to figure out how to make food that was going to sustain us, to keep us nourished, to keep us filled with the minimum amount possible, because that's all we were getting back in let's be honest, in the slave days. We in Black History Month. Back in slavery time, we didn't get the cuts of the oxtail, which we did, but they were throwing them away back then. But we didn't get the filet mignon. We didn't get the pork loins. We didn't get the chicken breast. What we got was chicken feet, chicken lips. What we got was porridge. We got grains to make porridge, and that's what we're making is a type of porridge. So we had to make the best of what we could, and of course, knowing who we are as a people, we take nothing and turn it into something great and tasty.
$1 out of 15 cents.
Now, did grits start with slavery? No. When the Indians that were here, the indigenous people that were here, actually started drying out corn and making porridge and things like that out of corn. And again, you got to remember that those people in those days, for the most part, were travelers. And so they moved from place to place during the seasons. So they had to make things and bring things that would travel well, that would move with them. And so again, food, what I love about food is because food will take you around the world. Food will give you a history. Food will actually tell you history better than his story will tell you, because people forever have had to use food in the number of different ways that would fit and adapt to their diet, to their environment, and their lifestyle. Again, so there we are. So if we see, we have our jalapeno apricots coming to a boil. So now what we're going to do, we're going to slow it down a little bit. And we're going to let that just go ahead just a little bit and let it simmer, keep simmering down. You'll see it's getting pretty. Hey, nobody asked me a question. Why didn't we cut the jalapeno?
Why didn't we cut the jalapeno?
Great question, guys. We did not cut the jalapeno because we're going to pull the jalapeno right out of this. So now, back to the subjectiveness. If you want a spicier, you can take the jalapeno after we take it out, set it on the side, let it cool down, and then you can chop it and put it into the syrup. If you just want the flavor of the jalapenos actually have really good flavor without necessarily a lot of heat. And if you want that, then you just take that jalapeno out and just keep the flavor profile. I'm going to stir my grits because I don't want them to stick on the bottom of the pan. All right? Because they're expanding, and it looks like I'm going to have to add some water to this now. We have enough cream in there. We don't need to add any more cream. It's going to be creamy. All right.
So how do you know you might need to add some more liquid? What's telling you that?
The texture, the density, I should say, of what I have in the pot. When I go to stir, there's a little bit of sticking on the bottom and there's a little bit of density. And I know that I want this to be at least 3 to 4 times higher than the actual grits themselves, the grain, I should say, because we're not even talking about grain, the corn grain, okay? Oh yeah, there we go. And so here, the good question was, about the grits, where they come from. So in the Southwest, especially in Mexico, they actually have hominy, right? Anybody know what pozole is? So pozole is a Mexican soup that they make, and they use hominy, which is the part which is actually a grit. It's just coarsely ground. All right, but they've been using that for centuries. So again, food is very, very subjective, and it is designed for lifestyle, environment, and availability. I forgot to add availability. Okay, so now that's going, guys. All that's going. So we're going to cut our I was about to say mirepoix. That would be French, which again, since I said it, the mirepoix is the French trinity when you're doing French classical cooking, and that is onions, carrots, and celery. But we're doing the Cajun Holy Trinity. So we're going to use our celery, our onion, and our carrot. I mean, carrot. Did I say carrot? Does that look like a carrot, guys? That doesn't look like a carrot. That looks like a green pepper. Green pepper. All right. So what we're going to do, I'm going to take half of it and we're going to brunoise. So brunoise, again, we're using, see, my mind was on French because I'm actually French classically trained. And the cutting style that we're going to use right now is a brunoise, which is a little bit smaller than a small dice. Okay? So we have a little bit of herbs on the board, which is not going to hurt us. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to come across. I make that cut julienne, then I'm going to come down, right? So that everything tends to be the same size, all right? Now, something's happening right now to me that I don't like. And I'm telling you, safety in the kitchen is more important than anything else. You guys see my board is slipping, right? It's moving. I don't want my board moving while I'm cutting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my board, I'm going to move it to the side, okay? And I'm going to take a towel, and I'm going to place a towel down. Some people, you can use um, a wet paper towel or something like that, or even the little rubber grids that you use in your cabinets. All right. So again, safety first.
That's a nice safety hack.
There you go. And I don't want to cut myself. I've been cut quite a bit in life, trust me, in the kitchen. So celery. We're gonna cut our celery. I took the leaves off the celery earlier and I cleaned them so that we can use them, but I'm gonna go ahead and brunoise the celery also.
Chef, you can eat celery leaf?
Yes, you can. They have a lot of flavor. A lots of times when I take my if I'm doing catering and I need garnish for different dishes or different items, I'll take the leaves of the celery and actually use them for garnish. One, because they're very, very sturdy and they hold up to the heat well, they hold up to the cold well, and they look great. The green on a plate against anything else, it actually looks really, really good. So that's what I do. But yes, you can eat the leaf of the celery. You can actually eat the root of the celery. It's called celeriac, which you don't normally see. It's usually pretty big. Um, so there are different things that you can do. All right. Yes. Yes.
Oh, why not a jelly or a jam? What's the difference?
So here's the thing. For me, you could use it. Well, I wouldn't use a jelly or a jam actually because of the amount of sugar. The amount of sugar in the product itself. I like to preserve because it's closer to the actual, I won't say unprocessed because it is processed, but closer to the actual fruit itself. So as you get further and further away, you start adding and you create jelly and you create jams, you're adding sugar and pectins and all kind of different product items into that. And you start to lose the integrity to me of the item. Now, don't get me wrong. I love peanut butter and jelly. So I don't have nothing against jelly, but for a particular application, I want that the as rich as it can get on the actual preserve. All right. Oh yeah, we getting it now. All right. We need this to come to a boil. Take a minute, but it's getting there. All right. Making sure our temperature's up. All right, let's keep going. Preserve is looking good. Now I'm gonna raise that temperature a little bit because we got it. There you go. I want to make sure it has a good rolling boil, rolling simmer. You see it if you like my camera guy will show you right now. You see when it's rolling on the top, that's what you want. So I'm going to show you this. If I bring it all the way up, you see the difference? That's a boil. Now it's starting to break the surface. Now when I turn it down some, if you give it a second, it's just going to roll along the surface. You see the difference? So boiling extracts flavor. So if I'm boiling it, I'm actually taking the flavor out. Simmering infuses flavor. So when it's just rolling across the top, It's putting the flavor, keeping the flavor in, pulling liquid out. Okay? All right, here we go. Back over this celery to the Cajun Trinity, guys. The Cajun Trinities. All right. Got our green pepper, celery. We just need a little onion. That's what that guy used to say on TV all the time. Onion. So we're gonna cut out, we're gonna clean our onion off. If you cut your onion from the root end first, you will tend not to release as much of the juice in the onion. It'll keep you from crying somewhat. Not always, but somewhat. It just helps, okay? So I'm gonna go here. And again, on my onion, I'm gonna slice down. Again, we're gonna bring this to a brunoise. So I'm gonna slice down and not all the way through. Then I'm gonna turn it to the side and I'm gonna come across. And I'm gonna come across again. And I'm gonna put that over there. We'll cut that after. And then we'll come down. All right, and then when we get to the end where it's not cut, we turn it, lay it down, turn it to the side. Can we see that? All right, then we're just gonna slice again, and we're gonna turn it a little bit as it goes so that we can keep as even a slice as possible. Uniformity is the key of cooking anything, and it's uniform. It will all cook together at the same time. This way you don't have to worry about things overcooking and other things undercooking. All right. So there we are. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add some garlic to this. So we're gonna take our garlic. I took the clove off. A nice, pretty big clove there. It's a good size. And I'm gonna pop it. So once I pop it, you see what happens? The peels open up, and they come off, and it's easier to remove. Peel off of there. And our clove is actually easier to handle. All right, and this clove here in particular has the root end on it, so we pull that off. And then we're gonna cut the root off. All right, we're gonna get rid of that. There's a garbage on my side, guys, that you can't see, that I keep putting things in, okay? So now when I get to the clove, I'm gonna do what I call popping the clove again. I'm gonna pop it, and we're gonna pop it one more time. All right? Once we do that, now we're just gonna come across and we're just gonna cut it just right across. I'm not gonna worry about brunoising this because we're gonna saute this really quick and it's gonna dissolve in the actual fish, in the actual pan. All right, guys, we're moving right along. We're doing pretty good. I have my shrimp peeled and ready to go over here. I have my Trinity here ready to go, making sure everything is cut evenly. All right. We have our pot. We have our grits going. We're going to give our grits another stir, and we may just go ahead and put a top on it and let them cook out nice and slow. Yeah, see the texture. I can feel it. The texture of the grits. Oh, it looks good though. Richness from the half and half. Does anybody know what half and half is?
Half milk, half cream?
That's exactly what it is. Half milk, half cream. So you have that richness in there. All right. So we may just bring these to the front. And I think we should be okay. We'll let this keep cooking. We may have to raise this temperature up a little bit. All right. Just a little bit. Because we don't want the grits to overcook while, to absorb too much liquid while it's cooking. All right. And we still want a good roll on here. Let's bring the temperature up a little bit. All right. Any questions so far, guys?
No question, chef.
All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make the first topping for the Cajun shrimp and grits. And I'm going to take away something here. That's a small eye. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring these grits to the front because there's a larger eye on the stove, which will give us more heat in a greater in a greater, there we go. I think it's a larger eye, right? Yeah, that's a small eye to the back. I'm gonna turn this over here, and we'll get those grits up. Going, I need them to go a little bit faster. All right? Yeah, let that go. Meanwhile, that's going. And actually, we're just gonna actually transfer over to this eye. That's a really big eye. And then we're gonna, so what I'm doing is, because the eye on the back, when I say eye, that's the size of the burner. The eye on the back is a smaller burner, and I'm using a wider pot, so I'm not getting all the surface that I need. So what I'm doing, I moved it to a larger eye so that we can get more surface, and we'll get more, we'll get it to the temperature faster than we would back there. And now, it's actually doing what it's supposed to do. So this looks good. Oh yeah. Does that look like grits, guys? Who likes grits? Other than me. Who likes grits? Nobody likes grits? Am I the only one that likes grits?
Your cameraman likes grits.
Cameraman likes grits. All right. Okay, there we go. If you guys can see the texture changing already? Can we see the texture changing?
Yes, yeah.
All right, we're gonna put a lid on this, and then we're gonna just keep it nice and low. And it's gonna cook out pretty good. I'm gonna taste it. See where we are on that. Grab one of my tasting spoons here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. See the thickness now?
Yes.
That's
yeah.
what we're looking for. So we're gonna go ahead and turn this down. So, now, this is the great part about grits. We're gonna go ahead and put a lid on it. Let it almost steam itself a little bit more to get to the consistency that we're looking for. I'm gonna taste it. Use my soup coolers to cool it down because they can be hot. When I was a little kid, I got burnt with some grits when I was probably about 6 years old. And I still remember it. Wasn't cute and wasn't funny. And they stuck to my hand. Mm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Just let it, it'll be nice. Just let it cook out a little bit more. And we're going. Oh yeah. All right. Top on, nice and low now. Steam itself out. All right, so here we are. We're getting ready to do our sauce for the Caucasian shrimp and grits, right? And we're gonna add a little bit of shrimp and a little bit of chicken base to it. Both bases. Just to give it that. That's how we said we're gonna give it a little twist. Twist. I remember the Flintstones did something called Bedrock Twist. All right, adding again. You guys noticing I'm using a lot of measurement here, right?
No chef.
Lots of measurement. So, you don't want it to be too hot. All right. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead. We have our shrimp. They're all cleaned and everything is ready to go. And we have our flour. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to flour our shrimp. Why are we going to flour the shrimp? We're going to dredge them in a little flour. Anybody know why? That oil's nice and hot. How do I know the oil's hot, guys?
Because it's sizzling when you throw the flour in.
You should get some reaction. Exactly. So we're gonna go ahead, and this is just simple flour. We're gonna add a little bit of the, we're gonna add a little bit of the jerk seasoning to it, right? And then we're gonna add a little bit more to the, we add a little bit of jerk seasoning on the shrimp. All right. Then we're gonna add a little bit more into the sauce once it gets going. All right. But that oil is really hot, so we're gonna move quick. So as I put the shrimp in, it's gonna cool the oil down some, which is fine. But if I don't move quick, the oil's gonna it's gonna end up burning the shrimp. We don't wanna do that, right?
No, chef.
There we go. Mm. Mhm. And the portions that I gave you guys, you can do as many shrimp as you want or as little as you want. I just gave you the portions to make it easy. I didn't want anybody to feel pressure to go out and buy 5 pounds of shrimp or anything like that to make this dish. All right. Now I'm not gonna overload the pan, but for the amount of shrimp I have going in, I'm gonna actually put them all in. All right. Is everybody caught up?
Yes, yeah.
All right. All right. We're gonna get rid of this, get this out the way. We're gonna let those cook a little bit on each side. Any questions so far?
No questions, chef.
All right. All right. We're gonna turn our shrimp over. See the little color on them? While that's cooking, next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add in my garlic and my Trinity, right? And we're gonna add some more seasoning. If you notice how the shrimp, because I'm cooking it in shallow oil, you notice how it's plumped up? Notice how it plumped on the inside? See that?
Yes, chef.
If I were frying it all the way and I dumped it all in, it would still cook, but it wouldn't get that nice plumpness that I'm looking for. All right. So now we're gonna add this, but we're gonna add this in a way of building flavor. Okay, all from the same board. I'm gonna add the garlic in first. I love to add garlic in any dish before I add onions. A lot of recipes will call for onions and then garlic. What I found is that once you add the onions in, the garlic stops cooking. So if you add the onions first, the juices from the onions come out. So once you add the garlic, as the Italians say, to fry, you want to fry the garlic. You want to fry the garlic. All right, so you fry the garlic first, and then you add everything else. All right, and that's when you start to get real flavors. And we're building. This is flavor building right now. All right. How does that look, guys?
It looks good and it smells wonderful.
All right, now we're gonna add the onions. All right, the onions are going in. We'll get the onions get a little turn. You notice the garlic was just about to turn golden brown. So if you notice what happens once I add the onions in, let's see if I can find. You'll see that garlic. It's gonna stay golden brown. It's not gonna burn any. It's not gonna get any darker. It's not gonna burn. And that's because the juices from the onions come out and it stops them from cooking. And the sugar from the onions now, well, let me just put it this way. So garlic, that's the sugar in the garlic that turns it brown. People don't realize there's a lot of sugar in garlic. There's actually a lot of sugar in onions also. And that's what you get, where you get your browning or the caramelization from. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and add the peppers and the celery. All right.
That smells good, chef.
There you go. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Let it cook a little bit. Now there's one other item that I didn't actually put on. I'm gonna put it on the recipe, but you can. I like to use it. You don't have to. It actually works well in Cajun food, and it's bay leaf, or what it is. It's a dried laurel leaf, is what it is. All right. And so I'm just going to drop a couple bay leaves or dried laurel leaves into this pot. And normally when you use these, it's going to be something that you're going to cook for a while. And this is not going to cook a long time, but it'll give some flavor. All right, so this is what it looks like. Those are bay leaves, okay? And they last forever in your house. You can keep those forever. All right, so we're gonna let that cook a little bit. We're gonna add some more of our seasoning, right? All right, so Cajun seasoning, right? All right. Okay. Letting this go. Oh yeah. How does that smell, guys?
That smells wonderful, chef.
Now I'm gonna go ahead. We're gonna add some water to this dish. I'm sorry. Before we do that, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add some chicken base and a little bit of shrimp base, just to give it a little bit of a seafood flavor. So somebody asked me about shrimp shells earlier today, and they were saying they see people eat shrimp shells. I've never really seen anybody eat shrimp shells, but what I do when I buy shrimp, a lot of times I save the shells and I make a coq bouillon with it, which is like a shrimp stock, and I'll use that if I'm making gumbo or if I'm making etouffee or anything where I need a shrimp kind of stock to it. All right. Looking good. Now we're gonna excuse me, we're gonna add a little bit of water. And we don't need a ton. Let that cook down. So let's check out grits, guys. How they looking? They're looking pretty good. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit lower. Let's check and see what we got. I'm gonna use the wooden spoon this time because I want to make sure that I get a good feel for them. Oh yes. All right, we're actually gonna turn these off now. Yeah, these are gonna turn off. All right. And just keep the lid on them. So, take the spoon. Cameraman, taste it. Blow it, make sure it's cool. Actually, we're actually going to turn these off. They are there. We don't need to go any further with those. We're gonna put a lid on these shrimp. We're gonna let those cook. While those are cooking, we're gonna take a look over here at our. There we go. Now we're gonna speed this up a little bit to get faster reduction now. And now what we're gonna do is flavors are there. So now we're gonna get a reduction out of it. So what I told you before, when you're boiling, you boil flavor out. When you simmer, you're pushing flavor in. So we simmered long enough so that there's enough flavor has come into this stock here, this sauce. Now I'm gonna let it boil some so we can get some reduction going. So that flavors are gonna get more intensified. All right. We have our grits already. We've got our Cajun style shrimp going. And now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put our two things we're gonna do. We're gonna put our jerk shrimp in the oven. Okay? Once we put our jerk shrimp in the oven, then we're gonna turn around and let's do this first. We're gonna change course a little bit, okay? Everybody okay with changing course?
Yes,
We're
chef.
not gonna change horses, but we're gonna change course, okay? So we're not gonna drown. We're not changing horses in the middle of the stream. We're gonna change the course a little bit. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead, since the grits actually have a nice texture. How are those grits? They have a nice little texture to them. We're gonna go ahead and put the grit cake in the oven. All right, so we're gonna spray our pan. And I just got a disposable pan, guys, and we're just gonna spray it. Make sure you get the sides and the edges. All right. And now we're gonna take our grits. We're gonna use the spoon that we just had. We're gonna lower our shrimp down. Get that going. Does anybody have any questions so far?
No question, chef.
Everything's looking good? Everybody tasting good?
Yes, chef.
All right. Oh, yeah. All right, so here we go. We'll take this off. Now we're gonna take our spoon, and we're gonna use the spoon because what we're gonna do, and we use a wooden spoon. You notice how handy the wooden spoon is? You always wonder why grandma had a wooden spoon in her kitchen, right? Because you can do a lot with it.
So it wasn't just to pop you with?
No, that came after. That definitely came after. So we're gonna add this. Then we're gonna add a little cheese to it, right? Mmm. Cheese, right? Woo. Now that's another type of grit that people like, right? Cheese grits? Yes.
Yes, chef.
Now I'll tell you what you can do with these, with the grit cakes. We actually can make them ahead of time. And you actually cook and they refrigerate and they hold it well. All right. I'm gonna put my top back on my grits, and the reason being we want to keep that heat that's in there because it's really holding up and they're cooking really, really nice. So I'm gonna put that in there. I'm gonna put that over here for now. I'm gonna add my cheese. I'm just using a little bit of shredded cheddar, guys. All right. And we're gonna mix it in. And we don't want a lot. We do not, so we're not making a cheese grit. So the cheese is gonna help to hold it together, but it's not necessarily a cheesy grit cake, okay? Then I wanna check my recipe. I wanna check on myself to make sure we got everything going. Yep, we're good. We're good. Any questions so far?
No question, chef.
All right. And we're gonna pop these in the oven. We got the oven set to 350. Mm. 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 Get it to the ends. How many minutes, guys? How many minutes on the great cake? I think I'm gonna raise the oven up, guys, to about 425. All right. And the reason being because those grits are really at a nice, they're cooked very well. They have a nice coarseness to them that I like, and they're gonna hold up really, really good. And I like the shrimp to be at 425 when we cook the shrimp because the shrimp they plump up when you roast them.
15 minutes for the grit cake.
There
Yeah.
you go. So the shrimp and the grit cake is going to be done together. Now I'm going to take the top off of this now and let that get a little bit of reduction to it. How does that smell, sir? Can you smell it? All right. Notice how plump the shrimp stayed? All right, we're gonna raise that temperature a little bit, just so that we're pulling some of the flour off of the shrimp itself. to help with the thickness, to help thicken that sauce a little bit. So that we put that sauce on top of the grit, the plate is gonna hold up really nice. All right. So we're gonna spray this down. We're gonna take our shrimp right out. Can we see this, guys? This is the shrimp we marinated. Whew. We're gonna take it right out. It's just gonna lay right on the pan. Now I will tell you, I did this dish for about 600 people one time, and I got really rave reviews for it. It was really, they really enjoyed it. And this is a created dish by me. It's not something that I found anywhere.
Yeah, your cameraman just said those are the best grits he's ever had in his life.
I'm glad you enjoyed those, sir. All right. So we're going in. Shrimp will take about 15 minutes. The grit cakes will take 15 minutes. Let's do this. Go in. All right. We'll set our timer.
Time 1-5.
Mm-hmm. There it is.
Start.
Bacon bar. Trust me.
We got a timer set, Chef.
I got it. Yep, timer set. Okay, what we're gonna do? There we go. Now, timer.
And
Timer
the time.
set. There we go. We're good. All right, guys, here we go. So, where are we up to now? Everything's working, correct? Everything's looking pretty good. Everything tasting good so far. We don't know about the tasting yet. We just know that everything is working. Anybody have any questions so far? Come back over here. No questions. So there was a question about if you're allergic to shellfish. So yes, you can do this with any hearty or full, what I call a thick flesh shrimp. I mean a fish. So catfish, a whiting, a ling, anything like a redfish is really good for this. You can do it the same way. You just cut it in the size that you want. You do the same seasoning, the same breading, everything else, and that is, and you just follow the same recipe, and that's it. All right, so guys, we're looking pretty good. Everything's coming along. Our sauce is reducing now pretty much. You guys see how much it reduced so far? But we pulled the flavor out first. We got that flavor infused in there. So it's reducing now, it's pulling the liquid out, but we're not losing the flavor. Had we just started out with a strong boil and just let it boil all the way, we would have boiled all the flavor out first. And then we would end up with a watery or a light tasting sauce. Okay? So now this is going to be a nice flavored sauce here. Now we're going to go over the grit cake and jerk shrimp. And we're looking good. We're looking good. So again, if you have any questions about anything or want to know anything, just reach out to us, because here we are at Cooking with Carrington. Our goal is here to what? Elevate and educate. That's what we do. Question. Time for questions.
Do shrimp from different areas actually taste different?
Great question. People ask, do shrimp from different areas actually taste different? I'm going to answer that with I'm going to say yes, and the reason I'm hesitating because shrimp, if you're just tasting a shrimp, you may not know the area that it comes from. But what I will say is, so you have tiger shrimp, which come from the Vietnam area, that where in Southeast Asia, and they have stripes on them, and they're called tiger shrimp. They tend to have a lot more iodine in them. So people who have a shellfish allergy, they're usually allergic to the amount of iodine. They're usually allergic to the amount of iodine that's in the actual shrimp itself. So those shrimp, those tiger shrimp, have a real strong flavor, and they tend to have more iodine. You have Gulf shrimp, which come out of the Gulf of Mexico, either on the Louisiana side or the Texas side, or I'm sorry, the Florida side or the Texas side, or up by the panhandle of Florida and Louisiana and Alabama. They tend to be a little bit milder. You have white ones and you have brown ones. The brown ones seem to have a little more of a fishier flavor to them. You have Argentinian red shrimp. Those are shrimp that come obviously from Argentina. Again, a lot of those are farmed fish, farmed shrimp. Same with the tiger shrimps from Southeast Asia. Is there a lot of regulation on what they're being fed? Not really. So again, yes and no. It's always good. I believe it's always good when you can to go with your local fish, your local shrimp. So, and the reason being, if nothing else, it's going to be a fresher product. So that's how I tend to go. All right. Great question though about that, because shrimp come from all over. I mean, there's shrimping everywhere. Shrimp boats running everywhere. Any other question?
No other questions, Chef.
Okay, this is really getting down. I'm gonna lower this temperature again. Take some of this caramelization off. Gonna help with the flavoring. Oh yeah, we're getting. You guys saw how much liquid we started with in here, right? You see where we are now? All right. Lower this a little bit. I'm gonna turn our shrimp off. I think we've got a nice little. Oh yeah. Turn these off. Top back on it so that we can get a little bit of the sauce there. Back off the heat. The grits are off. Tasting. I'm going to add a tiny bit of water into the sauce here. That's to cut some of the shrimpiness, good reduction on it. So,
This is where that subjectivity comes into play, right, Chef?
definitely, most definitely. It's all about what your preference is. All right. Well, everything that we're doing today is all preference. There's nothing that has to be followed in order or in recipe, in the amounts, or even in timing or anything else. All right. So, guys, we're looking pretty good. I think we got we made great time on this one. We're going to start plating in a minute, and I think everybody is going to be pleasantly surprised. I pray you are. I pray you all are doing well wherever you are, and that the day brings you a great joy, and that you can share these meals and go to our YouTube channel. If you haven't done already, please subscribe to Cooking with Carrington, and always just refer to the episodes or anything that you may want. Just reach out to us, and we will definitely continue to educate and elevate. And as we move forward, I'm going to go ahead And yeah, we're starting to get some more body on this is what we wanted. And we're gonna turn this off also. And we're gonna let it sit for a little bit.
Got a question, Chef.
Our question.
Would there be a difference in flavor or texture if we used bigger or smaller shrimp?
Great question. Question is, would it be a difference in flavor or texture if you use bigger or smaller shrimp? Personally, I'm giving you my personal opinion. One, I don't like shrimp that are too big. And again, we talked about what the numbers are to be like a U12 or U16. When you get into shrimp that large, they tend to be tougher. So texture wise, they will be tougher. They don't, to me, and shrimp that are too small, they fall apart in your when you're cooking it down in your sauce. They don't hold up in the sauce. So anywhere between your U16s to U30s, even if you get to 2630, okay. But outside of those numbers, I wouldn't use them for either one of these dishes. And those are the reasons why.
Thanks, Chef.
You're welcome. Great question.
Another question, Chef.
Yes, question.
Are there other foods that are close to a grit but not a grit?
So semolina, you're talking about. Semolina is a flour. It's a type of flour, and it's used. You can use semolina in pastas and things like that. Closer to that would be polenta, and I think that might be more what you're thinking of. So it would be like a grit. It would be, you can substitute actually a grit for polenta, and you can substitute polenta for grits. But polenta is an Italian, if you want to base it in Italian grit. The American grit tends to be a little bit coarser, but that is, yes. Good question. Great question. Any other questions?
No other questions, Chef.
Awesome. Is anybody cooking? Can we see anybody's plates? Anybody got anything going? Nobody's cooking. All right. So everybody's just gonna go by what we taste today. Oh, I hope it's good.
It's gonna be delicious, Chef.
I hope so. We never know. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Party in the mouth. There you go. All right. So here we go. All right, I'm gonna take a look at our grit cake and our shrimp. See how they're doing. We got about another 4 minutes or so. Oh yeah. Actually, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna pull the shrimp. Oh yeah. We're gonna pull the shrimp. Shrimp will be ready. I'm gonna set it down to the side. You wanna take a look at those real quick? You smell good? All right. And we're gonna set it to the side here for a minute or so. We're gonna take a look at the grit cake. Oh yeah. All right. So the grit cake looks like it's just about done. Also, I'm gonna let the grit cake go for another. Actually, about another 3 minutes. I'm thinking. Yeah, we'll let it go for just another 3 minutes or so. And you'll see the difference. The grit cake has risen up some from where we put it in at. Gonna move our shrimp.
Got a question, Chef.
Question.
What ingredients make jerk?
Jerk.
Jerk.
So jerk is a style of cooking. I'm glad you said that because I tried to mention it earlier. Jerk is an actual style of cooking. It comes from Jamaica, where they used to cook outside on the charcoal cans, the 55-gallon drums that were cut open. And that's the jerking is the way, what they call that was the style of cooking. The jerk seasoning are your traditional sort of Jamaican flavors that make up, now the island of Jamaica has a lot of cultures on there. You have Indian, you have Asian, you have African, you have British. So there's a lot of different flavors that go in there. So your basic jerk seasoning was what we have today. So your allspice, thyme, those are the two major seasonings. If you want to get into the spicing of making it hot, your Scotch bonnet peppers, which I did not use today, because to use that in the marinade, it takes a while for it to go to develop the flavor. So we weren't going to use that today. So garlic, salt, pepper, soy sauce, another major ingredient in actual jerk seasoning. So when you see jerk food and you see why it's so dark, it's normally from the soy sauce. All right.
So jerk seasoning is one thing, and jerk chicken is another thing. It's how it's prepared, or is it seasoning, or both?
So okay, great question. So when you say jerk seasoning, it really should be jerked chicken. When you say jerk chicken, it should be jerked chicken. So if the seasoning is the marinade of the Jamaican-based seasonings, and then it's cooked, it should be cooked jerk style.
Got it. Thanks, Chef.
You're welcome. If you go to New York, and I'm probably sure different places now do it also, you'll see a lot of the Jamaican restaurants actually have barrels out in front of their restaurants, and they actually cook out on those barrels, and that's jerking. And that's jerking the chicken. Usually it's only jerking chicken because they don't really cook. It's funny, I was talking with somebody yesterday, and we're talking about how all of a sudden you see jerk pork, and you say, well, years ago, you didn't see jerk pork. And the reason being, you didn't see jerk pork, jerk beef, or anything like that, because in Jamaica, they don't have a lot of grazing. Pigs are not a big animal there. Chickens are. They don't have enough space on the island to actually raise cattle, so you don't have a lot of beef. And then, in the different areas of Jamaica, you have what they call ital, and that's a vegetarian form of eating that they do in Jamaica. All right. So I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to plate some of this up. Are we ready?
We're ready, Chef.
Okay, I'm going to move these plates over to this side. And we're going to plate. We're going to plate the traditional first. All right. My producer, who doesn't eat grits, is going to try out grits today. Correct? I didn't hear anything.
I don't want to disappoint you, Chef.
Don't disappoint me now. So there we go. So there's if we notice the rise, even though those grits were cooked already, we baked them off and they rose up some, right? So we're going to let them sit there for a minute. Turn off our oven, turn off the timer, and everything's good to go off. There we go. All right, cooling down. Here we go. So let's go ahead and do this. So this is your traditional. Notice how the grits, they're nice and creamy. Well, you guys tell me when you taste it. They hold together. We're just going to put them on the plate. Just a little tasting portion. All right. And here we go. And then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to grab a couple more spoons from here. Right. So okay. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put there. And we're going to plate. Do we see how that looks, guys? That look good?
Yes, yeah.
All right. Now the tails are still on them. And you can pull the tails, you pull the tails off. Or if you want, you can eat the tails. If some people say they eat the tails. Oh my goodness, look at that. Mm, mm. That look good enough to eat? Never serve anybody a bay leaf, okay, guys? Now what we're gonna do. Okay, oh yeah, it's set. Get these over here. Set these back over here. All right. So.
Chef, if you wanted to increase the heat on your dish, because you like it nice and spicy, which would you increase? Cut the jalapeno open, add more cayenne, or throw in some other type of pepper?
For the glaze or for this one?
For this one.
This one. So in this one, I would add Scotch bonnet. I would take a Scotch bonnet, cut it in half, and when I add the liquid, I would just let it cook down in there. And the reason being, because Scotch bonnet has a really distinctive pepper flavor that's very distinctive to Jamaica, or Creole, and this is more of a cake. I'm sorry. On this one, I would add more cayenne to this one. On the jerk, I would add Scotch bonnet into the marinade, into the actual marinade of it.
Okay.
Okay.
So, doing hot sauce, we won't mention brand name, but adding the hot sauce to this dish, would that enhance or or cayenne is a better option as you're cooking?
It depends on the hot sauce that you're going to grab. That depends on the hot sauce that you're going to grab to use, because different hot sauces have different flavor profiles. So you have hot sauces that have Tabasco base. You have some that have a cayenne base. So again, you got ultimate ones that have the ghost pepper base. It depends on what your flavor profile and what you're looking for. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, chef.
Okay. Let me see. Need another plate to put these on. Let me see what we got here.
Yes, chef.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. Thank you. I'm gonna just put them all on here with it. All right, and we'll go. All right, so.
How is that different from regular grits?
Taste the texture. So this is a baked off. It's going to be When you taste it, you'll see the difference. So this is a cake. And actually, if you let these cool, if I would have let these cool a little bit more, they would really be real cakey and hold up like a cake. And so that's what you'll see in these here. But you'll see the difference. It's just texture. All right. There we go. There. Don't tell nobody I'm gonna taste it. Mm. Mm. Okay. I'm gonna use my hands to put these on. Look how that works out, Jay.
So I've never had a grit cake before, chef, but I have had hot water cornbread. Is it at all similar?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. Your hot water cornbread is like it's cornbread. You know, it's the cornmeal. I mean, it's cornmeal and it's mixed up just like it was a baked up, just like it would be, you know, for cornbread. And then they put it in like I've seen it done in they call it hot water cornbread. I've seen it done in a pan with oil, and I've seen it done in a pan with boiling water. So it's different. All right. So here we go. So now we're gonna add just a little bit. You know, I didn't taste this yet. Let me taste it, make sure it's good. You always gotta taste it before it goes. Well, how was the shrimp there?
Yes.
Okay, that's the jerk shrimp.
Lord, have mercy. Yes.
Mm. Oh yeah. Okay. Mm. Mm. Mm.
You know it's good when the chef says,
I love apricots, or apricots, depending on how people decide to call them and say it. I like jalapenos when they're done in a certain fashion. I let my taste it. Awesome. All right, guys. So here we go. So we are at the end of the Cooking with Carrington shrimp and grits with a twist. So I hope everybody learned something. I hope you've tried it, and I hope you made something. And I think you enjoy it. And everything that we made again is subjective, and you can use it for a number of different items. The glaze that we made, you can use that again, like I said, on fried chicken, chicken and waffles. You can use it on fish. You can use it on a number of different things. The grits themselves, they're made in different ways. You can add different seasonings, different flavors, different flavor profiles to it. We took a base grit and we made it two different, entirely different profiles. What you'll taste the difference if you did both of them. If you did one, that's fine too. Again, the jerk shrimp, just to give you a twist on what can be done with just a little quick, simple imagination in infusing different cultures and cuisines together. So there we are. So I think we're going to end this one a little bit early. And again, I thank you for coming. Don't forget to join us for our next class. Look forward to information coming out on when, what, and how. And again, thank you so much for being with us. Don't forget the Big Daddy Sneak Up Sauce that you can you can order. Just call up, send us an email at dtcarrington61@gmail.com. And as always, thank you for riding along with us, strapping yourself in, and enjoying the ride with us along with yourselves. Make sure you share it with someone else. And again, it's always a party in your mouth when you're cooking with Carrington.